This episode of Noise of the Broke Boys is brought to you by deodorant. Are you a large, hairy, perspirating individual with no regard for personal hygiene? Do you attend social gatherings with no self-awareness of your own personal body odors? Perhaps you're a dancer that rolls on the ground for fun, allowing various dirt, grime, fungi, and bacteria to collect on your grotesque body. If this is a constant struggle for you, perhaps it is a good idea to apply deodorant to your body before attending social events such as your best friend's wedding or a family reunion. No longer will you cause scent-inflicted fainting of others at the club. You'll finally be free from causing your peers to spontaneously vomit at the first whiff of you. Get ready to make other dancers jealous of your new hygienic upgrade.
Deodorant should not be used in lieu of daily bathing activities and other necessary hygienic treatments. Do not use deodorant as a soap supplement or ingest it for respiratory disease treatment.
And now, on to the show. In today's episode, I sit down with a b-boy I met when I moved to the LA area about a year ago. He is the president of J.U.I.C.E, an organization whose aim is to support the local Los Angeles hip-hop scene. I really respect the work they do. Please enjoy this episode as I get to know b-boy Eric. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Terrible Trash Can Talk Show. I am your host, Kurt Rock-Ski, and today I have a special guest. His name is b-boy Eric, just, government name. He is the president of J.U.I.C.E. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, Kurt.
Yeah, I'm glad you could come. What I want to ask you, because I don't actually know what J.U.I.C.E stands for, but I just show up to you guys' practice and stuff and use your floor and everything. So can you talk to me a little bit about what J.U.I.C.E is?
Yeah, so J.U.I.C.E is an acronym. I always tell people, think about orange juice, and they never forget. So I always say, hey, it's J.U.I.C.E hip-hop. And they go, okay, I'll remember to look that up.
Yeah.
But J.U.I.C.E is an acronym. It stands for Justice by Uniting in Creative Energy. So J-U-I-C-E. I'll say it one more time. It's Justice by Uniting in Creative Energy.
Justice by Uniting Creative Energy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Yeah. It's like Justice League of Uniting. That's tight. Okay, so then, are you the one who started it? I know you're the president now, but were you the one who started it, or was it a group collective, or how did that actually fall into your lap?
Yeah, so there's an interesting history of J.U.I.C.E. J.U.I.C.E has been around in Los Angeles since 2001.
Okay.
Our founder, she was a mentor for incarcerated youth.
Okay.
So I wasn't the founder. I kind of came in probably earlier on in the existence of J.U.I.C.E, but still in its early stages. But the history of J.U.I.C.E is that, when our founder was asking incarcerated youth, what could have made a difference in your life?
Oh.
That was the big question that she had asked some of the young people that had made a mistake in their life. Mm-hmm. And just reflecting back on, what could have made a difference. They said, I really wish I had a place that I can go to. Just a place that I could feel like I could belong to.
Yeah.
A place that was safe, a place that I could feel that I was accepted for who I was, a place that did really interesting things run by and for young people.
Yeah.
Specifically the hip-hop arts.
Yeah.
Not the traditional YMCA or Boys and Girls Club, but something that was more something that I could relate to.
Yeah.
And so when asked that question, those were the items that our founder, Dawn, she said, what if we had an organization that is in these underserved neighborhoods that could promote the free opportunity for young people of any background to come through to express themselves through the hip-hop arts? Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, that could make, life-changing things if, these young people could have had this opportunity in their life.
Yeah.
So the history is, over the years, Dawn formed a group of dancers to come out and do festivals and get-togethers, and this became a weekly event. Eventually, we ended up having a practice session on Thursdays over on Vermont and 8th Street in the Pico Union District. Specifically a neighborhood that had a lot of crime, a lot of young people that, probably didn't have a path in their life, but was either in high school, dropped out of high school, or was in transition between being a kid and being an adult, and not having that path yet. And specifically, speaking with a lot of the young people at J.U.I.C.E, they said, I was at a place in my life where the streets were calling my name. I just needed to hustle. I needed to make money. I didn't have an outlet, but, J.U.I.C.E was a place that at least I can go to. So we were over on 8th in Vermont for a handful of years. Over time, we moved to a couple different locations, and finally we ended up over at MacArthur Park, still in the same neighborhood at Pico Union in the Westlake District. And, we've been there since 2011. 2011, we became a 501c3. 10-11 we did. And we decided to take that leap of faith. And we had a fiscal partner before, and to say, hey, let's go big and let's figure this thing out. Not having, a specific roadmap. We knew what we wanted to do. We knew we were doing something right. We knew that there was a need in the community. And there was just this huge following of artists in the community that came through the organization at one time in their life and said, hey, you know what? I met, my partner, or I developed a craft in my art form because, there was a facilitator there that just kind of took me in under his wing, or, it just friendships developed from here, or, it was the one thing I could focus on in my life that made me feel like I could live again. So we knew we were doing amazing work in the community, just, in our capacity. And, our big thing was, let's build a program that has, all the elements of hip hop, the 4 elements of emceeing, DJing, graffiti art, and breaking, and have that all under one roof, and be able to have a hip hop collective where, hey, I'm a graph writer, but I also want to learn how to Bboy.
Yeah.
Or, I'm a beat maker, but I also, I love graffiti art, across, or I want to learn how to DJ. I've always seen these DJs out there. So, we were able to create an organization where we had different facilitators that had a specialty in their craft, where the programming was unlike a traditional class or workshop program, but the idea was, we wanted to create an organization that really kept true to the hip hop arts, where it was just really peer-to-peer teaching. I mean, that was the key thing is when you're able to work with young people that feel the world is against you, or just really not sure of places or people, the best way to learn and the best way to develop friendships is really through that natural, organic, peer-to-peer mentoring. And where, it doesn't matter where you come from or where I came from, we all come from different backgrounds, but we see each other as friends, as artists, and we're able to mentor each other on different capacities. It's I always talk about, J.U.I.C.E is a place where you find people from all different backgrounds. Some have been educated in, amazing Ivy League schools or have amazing professions, and some are just haven't even finished high school. But when we come together, we share in this mentor of each other, and no one is seen as better than one another, but we're all seeing each other as friends and peers. And I don't think I would have ever met the unique people that I would have met unless it was for J.U.I.C.E, because I would have never, I think when we get older, we kind of have our own community and groups that we connect with. And so, for me, my profession, my day job, I work in the city of Calabasas, a nicer neighborhood. I work in commercial real estate, and I deal with a lot of individuals that are, very savvy, have been very well off financially. And then I travel to downtown LA or the mid area of Los Angeles, and I connect with people my age and older, but still, maybe of a different background, but we connect on this amazing level where I'm able to connect and just feel a human again, and live through these arts. So that's kind of the synopsis of J.U.I.C.E is just this community space where artists come to. It's free,
Yeah.
So anybody can kind of come through and find their own thing there. I've seen individuals that just come, they see the B-boys and B-girls breaking, and they just want to sit down and write and watch and get inspired. And I get to know them, and they'll go, "Oh, I didn't know you're an amazing, musician in the vocal arts or something like that."
Yeah, no, I think it's important to develop like a sense of community among creatives. I mean, I would say that a lot of times, artists would I think it comes down to, public schools now don't really stress the importance of creative arts. And so someone who innately has this creative tendency in their life is somewhat like shunned a little bit. I think like sometimes they don't fit into school so much. And so that might, go into why they're, feeling left out or whatever. And so they don't have a community in their typical day-to-day life. And so it's important to find that community. But, I think once they're seeing this, they're like, oh, there's so many people that are like this, and they come from all different walks of life. And so I think that it's such a great thing that you guys are doing this, because it's a great thing that is needed in the community, because I think it's not inherently in our public school system and just in our society in general.
Yeah, over the years I've gotten to know a lot of young people that have been through the program, and we always talk about sports in schools. I think schools focus on traditional sports: baseball, basketball, maybe soccer, football. But when it comes to the creative arts, it's one of those things that it's not academic in terms of scoring. It doesn't help bring funding to our schools. So those are things that are typically dropped right away.
Yeah.
And even the traditional sports, not everyone is laid out to be excited or even have that natural ability within certain specific sports. And so, what breaking does specifically, I think it creates an avenue and an opening door for individuals that may not relate to basketball, football, soccer, that says, hey, you know what? But breaking is something that I can actively do, and I can learn how to do, and I don't have to have this natural ability to be, strong, or I don't have to be super tall to become a basketball player, and I think it's the one type of activity that I think anybody can be involved in, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's the greatest thing. You don't have to buy uniforms. You don't have to be part of a program that costs funds.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what, if you have space and you have a desire, you could do it wherever you want.
Yeah. No, that's what drove me to it. Before, I was big into like martial arts and stuff, and I just felt this like disconnect between me and like a lot of the activities I was doing, because it was always like, oh, you need to do it this way and this. And I was like, I just want to do whatever the heck I want. And so in a way I was like a B-boy before I even knew what breaking was. And once I stumbled upon breaking, I was like, oh, it's okay to do whatever the hell you want. Like, it's encouraged. In fact, if you're not doing that, it's discouraged. You're a biter, right? So I was like, man, this is what I want to do. This is like so fun. I love it because it's like an active thing to do. It keeps you in shape, but it's encouraged to just explore like different movements, and you can kind of make whatever you want into something cool. It's like taking a canvas and painting, and you just kind of turn it into whatever you want. That's how I look at it. And I had been a painter basically my whole life before coming into breaking, and so it was like a natural thing for me to get into. I mean, obviously I needed to learn moves and stuff. I needed to understand the color palette, is what I could call it. The color palette, the techniques of how to perform the dance. But once I understood that, it was like, okay, let me just put these pieces together in whatever way I can conceive of in my mind. And I don't know, and it's encouraged to do that. So I found that this is like what I want to do. I say that I was like destined to be a B-boy, my whole life, really, even though I didn't know what breaking was until I was probably like 13 or something, So I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. And a lot of people that probably don't know what breaking is right now. And so I want to get the message out to them that there is this community. And I think that that's like the mission statement of like Juice, right? And that you want to get this thing out there so that people can come to the community, explore their different talents, their different things, build talents, and, ultimately become part of the hip hop community and do art together with us.
Yeah, I have an interesting story because I guess I wasn't introduced to hip hop till much later on.
Yeah.
I knew of hip hop, and I listened to hip hop music, but I think it didn't come till much later in my life where I really understood the true culture of hip hop. Going back where I came from, I was a gymnast growing up.
Oh, nice.
And so started when I was really young, did it through college, and my last competition, I was done.
Oh.
I mean, since I was probably 5 years old,
Yeah.
I worked out, maybe 5 to 6 days a week, 3 to 4 hours a day, competed, every other weekend. And then one day I was done.
Yeah.
There was nothing left for me. I didn't have a desire to compete, any further. I wasn't at that level either where I could go, hey, I could be in the top 10 in the United States. I was okay for where I was, and I had a good time doing it. And I took a hiatus, just stopped, and I still kept in shape. After I finished school, I moved to Japan. And I lived in Japan for about a year and a half.
Oh, nice.
I always knew about breaking, but and I because I was able to do some of the moves in gymnastics, I saw break dancers at that time going, oh, hey, that's a Thomas flare, or that's a T flare. And I was like, yeah, I was doing that when I was like 6 years old. You know?
Yeah, that's tight.
and so that came really natural to me. I was like, oh, I can get on my hands and I can do an aerial flip. That was something that I go, yeah, it's kind of in my bag of tricks.
Yeah.
So when I was in Japan, I went to a university there. I had a relative that allowed me to kind of enter into a university just kind of as a spectator. And
Okay.
it was really cool. I stayed there for about almost half a year, and I met this young man who was doing a style of dance called tutting in front of a glass mirror at the university. And I just went up to him and said, hey, that's really cool. And my name is Eric. And sure enough, we just kind of hit it off. And he's like, yeah, I also Bboy. And so, hey, why don't you come practice with us?
Yeah.
So he introduced me to his crew in Japan called Kaiten Ninja.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
And then all of a sudden, this thing that I was practicing since I was 5 years old, gymnastics, all of a sudden started transforming into a street dance. And then that street dance became breaking. Then I started to go, wow, this is really cool, and I think more so was just the need and the feeling of being able to have a group to be around and just being able to express, something that's very natural in me in movements. Gymnastics was about perfection, straight legs and pointed toes, and eventually, it allowed me to go, hey, what if I just bend my right knee and flex my front foot and just do something funky, and creating your own personality through it. But, I already had that skill set at that age, and I was like, you know what, this is really cool. But what I really learned is about community, and I think it was about the crew aspect, because I never had that. It reminded me about how I had a team when I was in gymnastics, and about some of the close relationships that I have, and it just allowed me to go, wow, this is what it feels like to be a crew, and just to share in just your experiences with each other, practice hard with each other, eat with each other, share stories with each other, and just be there for each other. I felt that was kind of the opening up of what hip hop culture was really all about.
Yeah.
It's about that community and that need for belonging, and it's just about sharing in your life.
Yeah.
So eventually, I started practicing and learning about breaking and just some of the basic fundamentals. But, I was like I was always doing power moves, and I didn't learn about the basic fundamental steps because I go, you know what? I'm just going to do this now and then see where it takes me. But I was really into it, and eventually I came back to the United States, and I was just kind of more aware about what, I learned in Japan, and I go, gosh, this must exist here somewhere.
Yeah.
So one day,
so you didn't even know it was coming.
I didn't know. So I was just, because I wasn't exposed to breaking. I wasn't exposed to a lot of hip hop growing up. And then one day I was over at work and I heard this girl talk about this place that is just an open session. Yeah. A lot of really dope B-boys and B-girls go to. They have an awesome MC program, live DJ. They have graffiti art walls. I'm like, whoa. So I just went up to her. I said, hey, I overheard you talking about this place. Can you tell me about it? I'm really interested. And she's like, yeah, just come follow me. It's in LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And remind you, so I grew up in the Valley. I was super suburbia.
Uh-huh.
and I was living, I think, on that time on the west side of Los Angeles. So I was like, oh, LA, it's kind of dangerous out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, So I remember going out there. I was like, well, where are we in LA? Because I never went to LA growing up. I always thought it was like a dangerous place. I mean, that's how sheltered I was, growing up. But sure enough, it was in the heart of LA. And the minute I walked into Juice that one day, I mean, I felt this amazing feeling over going, wow, there's so much energy here. There's so many amazing, talented artists here, and it's free. And I was kind of in awe. And I was just watching everybody collaborate together, just people talking, going, wow, this is a place I really need to be at. And that was my first experience. And I think I sat down for the first 30 minutes just watching because I was just like, wow, there's just so much amazing things going on here.
That's tight. Yeah. No, I guess I probably have a similar experience walking into one of the first jams I've ever been to when I was, probably 13, 14. I walked in and it's just like all these people are just dancing, battling, and I was like, whoa. Okay. At that time, I was like a skateboarder, and I was aware of like what breaking was. I could do a few moves or whatever, but I'd never been to an event before, and so I go in and I just see these like top level guys, but I didn't know who they were at that time. And I see them. Actually, Rob Zilla was there. Stuntman was there. Cujo was there. And I was like, oh my God, who's this guy just like literally flying on his hands? And come to know it later, it's like, oh, that was Cujo. It just like blew my mind to see that, and that there's this huge community of, of B-boys. Because before that, it was like, oh, it's just some high schoolers that get together in the lunchroom, at my high school because the janitor said we could be there until he comes in there, basically. And so that was breaking to me before that moment. And so, it like hit me. It hit me like a brick going, oh, this is more than like what I thought it was. It's more than just freaking rolling around on the floor. This is a real movement. So, that's tight.
Yeah, it was interesting you mentioned some of those names. Stuntman, Rob Zilla, Cujo. Because they've been around Juice since the very inception. Oh, yeah? And they were actually very much instrumental in bringing together the organization and the B-boy community. Mm-hmm. And so, it's just amazing how many B-boys and B-girls have been through Juice at one time in their life and have come through the doors. I always hear so many international visitors come and go, hey, we heard about this place in LA. And you have such a long history of all these, B-boys we used to watch on VHS tapes and now are on YouTube, but this has been like an iconic spot where people have come through at least one time in their life. Mm-hmm. And so it's really cool to hear, how individuals from like Japan, Germany, just, they say, hey, we're here. We just want to take a picture of this, amazing spot where a lot of history has come from. So it's always really encouraging to hear something like that.
Yeah, no, I knew about Juice before I moved to LA. I've probably known about it for a long time. I didn't know exactly what it was, but it was like there was always like a buzz around like what this is. There's this thing out in LA, and I only moved out here like maybe less than 6 months ago. And so I had no idea, how deep it was. And so once I got here, I was like, oh, this is this is like a real like thing. I thought it was just like a dance studio or something, you know what I mean? That had been around for a while, but no, this is you guys have a whole freaking mission that you're trying to accomplish. I mean, you are accomplishing. And so, yeah, it was just amazing to see that. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you today. So, yeah. So you said you were in Japan. About what age were you when you were in Japan?
I was about 23.
Okay.
23 years old.
And so that's when you first got into breaking.
I think seriously.
Okay.
Taking it more seriously, just really training. Because before that, I mean, you know, I'd go to a party and I was like, oh, there's a circle here. Let me show them how to do flares.
Oh, yeah, that's tight.
You know, so I kind of knew of...
Did you do the gymnast start where you're like...
Yeah, so I tried. No, because I saw like I go, that looks really corny if I do it like that.
No, you should have done it. You should have put on a whole like what is it, the leotard or whatever, and then just do it. Oh.
Yeah, but I would I would remember going to these like events where like a circle always forms, right, and then you get people going in there and doing a lot of like footwork, and then all of a sudden I go in there and. At that time in my life, I was pretty good at gymnastics. And I was really in good shape, and so I was just doing like T flares, like
just easy.
And then I was like super easy. Then I'd go right into like these flares where it looked like gymnastics. Well, I got a funny story. So the first time I came to J.U.I.C.E, and I started to get down, and I started doing these flares.
Yeah.
And this Bboy comes up to me and says, "Gymnastics." He knew right away because he goes, the way I did it was like, it was just, I was almost in splits doing like flares with like pointed toes and, and I was able to do it in reverse ways where I was like doing flares and I was spinning the other way. And, and he pointed it out right away. He goes, "Gymnastics." So I always remember that. And so, it kind of I go, oh gosh, is that obvious?
That's when you do a backflip and just do this. Yes.
Yeah.
And then walk away.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done, but I can't do that. So, but no, if I was a gymnast, I would have totally just embraced it and been like most form perfect flares and then go, yes. And boom, you rip off your hoodie and you got a leotard underneath. I don't know. I like to mess around with stuff like that, but that's tight. So, I guess what age do you think you started breaking then? Or like,
I think it was always part of me, like gymnastics and then like showcasing. I've always liked to perform. I think that was the aspect of something that's been part of my life. So
you were destined to be a b-boy.
So I would say seriously, probably around 23, 24. I mean, I didn't even know what a six-step was. I was like, I just thought people ran around like with their hands and feet. I go, oh, there's an actual fundamental way to do this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, because I used to pretend like, I just go, oh, I got this, and
then you run around in the
and so it's funny now because I teach a lot of young kids.
Yeah.
And, they always see what people are doing, but they just run around with their hands and feet and thinking that's exactly what everyone else is doing, which is true to a certain extent. But I think, you start to break it down and go, okay, there's a formula to this, and there's an actual hand-feet movement that, everyone learns from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and it's so deep too. I mean, there's like every little position you're putting your hand and your foot is like a different move almost. I mean, I don't know. I have a whole thing about my perspective of footwork, but we don't have to talk about that. But so breaking, so you always felt like you were kind of destined to be a b-boy. You're a b-boy in a gymnast body, I suppose, and so you came into it. And you already had the arsenal as if you had been breaking your entire life and just forgot to do footwork or something.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't learn footwork till much later on. Yeah. And then, as you get older, I think the power moves become a little bit more difficult because it hurts your elbows or your shoulders, your wrist. And so, I mean, for me, like I even stopped doing flares like 5-6 years ago just because it was just every time I did it, it hurt my body a lot. And so what I started to do a little bit more was focus on style and just almost fundamentals and go in the reverse way where I'm going backwards, where I'm going, all right, I can do these things that I can condition my body to not do so much, I guess, power moves, but I can go more to style and try to do what I can do within my age and still feel healthy afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's so great about breaking is like, it's such a branching thing. I mean, there's so much. I mean, look, as someone outside looking in, they're probably like, I don't understand this. But like when you go into it, it's like, man, there's so many things to learn that there's no way you're going to learn it all in your lifetime as a b-boy. And so taking pieces of everything and you can just mix it in whatever way you want. I think that is like so cool that, your style kind of develops as you age because of it like develops around what you're capable of in a way, I mean, like for me, I started out doing a lot of footwork, then I started doing power moves, then I started injuring myself and I stopped doing power moves and just started doing other things. I started freestyling a lot more, doing more top rocks and other like flowy type of moves, lots of transitions and stuff. And then, I don't know, now I'm where I'm at. I don't know, kind of like I can do moves, but it's like, oh, there's a risk to it. I might hurt myself. So
yeah, one thing I love about breaking is just the free flow of creativity. I think creativity comes from different inspirations in your life, and maybe what you do outside of practice or things that you see. I get a lot of inspiration by watching other styles of dance.
Yeah.
I love just, house dance or just different movements. And I go, wow, that's really cool. What if I, create that movement in my top rocks and just be a little bit more funky, And,
yeah.
And I love that aspect of just being unique and just developing your own style through whatever inspires you in life.
Yeah. I always got inspired by those old like corny kung fu movies that for some reason they were just so cool to see, like someone whooping the other dude's ass and then he just like sits in some crazy freeze and he just his mouth moves and then it says something else, but like, oh dude, my style is better than yours. I always thought that was the dopest thing ever. And they would, I used to watch this one movie called The Buddhist Fist a long time ago. And this dude would just jump into the craziest freezes. And I was like, dude, this guy's a b-boy. Like, for reals. He's just hitting. I remember he hit this crazy, like, chair freeze on his elbow. And he's just pointing at the guy. And he's just, like, talking shit. And I was like, oh, dude, that's what's up. And then, he obviously gets up and whoops his ass or whatever. But I always liked that because it was just so corny, but so dope.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, the movement is so cool. But yeah, just getting the inspiration anywhere, I mean, is encouraged in breaking, and I think that's the overall I don't know, message to be said, and why it resonates with me so much and resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah,
yeah. So, outside of hip hop, do you have any other creative endeavors or hobbies in your life?
Yeah. So it sounds funny, but there's a couple things I like to do. One of them is sing karaoke.
Dope. Yo, dude,
So,
that's what's up. Me and
I'm
my brother are hell into karaoke. I mean, like we're not good singers, but dude, I'm down with
Yeah.
karaoke.
So that's one of my, I would even say it was one of my passions. I have a singing group that I go to every Wednesday.
Oh, dang. So you're legit.
And so we do karaoke every Wednesday. And so I've been doing this for the last, 5 or 6 years straight.
That's tight.
So I really enjoy that aspect of being creative, but, singing renditions of songs in my own way.
What's your favorite song to sing?
Oh, man. That's a great question. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I would say, it all depends on the crowd of like what type of music they like. And maybe that would be like the song genre I would choose. Just,
If there was like a whole crowd of b-boys, what would you pick?
Oh man. It wouldn't be a pop love song, that's for sure. Maybe like a Bruno Mars song.
Okay.
Yeah, just something that has a little bit more funk to it that
Yeah.
people can get into and like
Uptown
that's
Funk or whatever. What's the name of that song?
Yeah. 24 Karat, something like that.
Yeah.
Just something that's like groovy, funky, that people can all go, yeah, let's get down to that.
Nice. Okay, so what about if it was like a senior citizen home? A senior citizen home.
Well, a funny thing you mentioned senior citizen homes. So one of my good friends right now, what he's doing is he's going to different senior citizen homes and he's setting up karaoke for them. And because it does a lot of things, it helps stimulate the mind, you know, and whether they sing well or not, it's the matter of reading something on television, keeping you up, and they reflect on the past. And I think, memory is a big thing with older folks. And so there's a really deep connection between singing that stimulates the mind, but also being able to read and do a whole thing. So the interesting thing was I went to a senior citizen home and to join them in karaoke night. Yeah. So they most of them probably won't recognize, anything that's probably from the 90s and on. Yeah. Most of them are like, oh, do you know like Dean Martin or something really old? So one of the songs I sang, just because I don't really know a whole lot of really old songs. I mean, I sing a lot of Beatles songs too, but maybe some like the Rascal Flatts, like Life is a Highway, that just kind of is, they may not recognize it, but the melody is kind of cool. So they go, they start to like, maybe even dance to it a little bit,
Yeah. That's tight. So are you like a pretty good singer?
In my mind, I'm a pretty good singer, but to other people, I'm probably just mediocre.
Okay. I've always wanted to learn to sing. Like I've recently got pretty into like music production, and I've like in my mind I've always been like, oh, I want to sing over these, but I don't know how to sing. I mean, I can fake it. I do. I mean, me and my brother would always do karaoke, and we don't do it too often anymore, but we used to do it literally like every week. We would go to this Japanese restaurant in Sacramento, and we would be the only people doing it too, and we would just freaking take over the restaurant just singing. I don't know, we would always sing like Welcome to the Jungle.
Those are tough songs. Those are really hard songs to sing.
Those are hard songs to sing, so I mean we sucked at it, so but what was the other song we'd sing? I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness.
Okay.
Yeah, that song we were all about that one. I don't know. Tons of Backstreet Boys songs. And
sure.
stuff,
so. Those are classics, and everyone knows them too. So I was in Japan, going back to that time period, and I remember, I would be new to the location, the area. I didn't have any friends at that point in time. I just knew, we have our days off, from work, because I taught English in Japan. So,
were you doing like a JET program?
Yeah, it was a private school program.
Okay.
And so on my days off, I'm like, okay, what should I do? There's all these karaoke places all over the place, but I was like, all right, how does this work?
Yeah.
I'm just going to enter it. So one day I decided to go, let me just check it out, And so I get there and it's like, yeah, I like to sing karaoke. And this is like my broken English, broken Japanese.
Yeah.
And they're like, one? Yeah, just me. She's like, and I think they asked me like 3 or 4 times, like, one?
Just one? She's like, are you crazy?
And so I said, yeah, just me. And said, okay. So, and they did it by time. So I remember I would like jam, because they charge by hour. So
I would have invited her.
So and you have to order a drink too. That's like their minimum.
Oh, okay.
So I would like pack in, as many songs as I can and then do that. And so I remember going back to the class, because I used to teach adults English, and we were talking about karaoke. And this one Japanese student of mine, she's like, singing karaoke by yourself is like going to Disneyland by yourself and riding all the rides by yourself. That's how weird it might be. But I was so into it. I mean, I loved it, and I loved being part of like a group singing karaoke.
Dude, that's a burn. She burned you pretty hard.
But and that's, I guess it just kind of, it was part of something that I love to do, is sing. And I don't even know how to sing well. Like I think in my mind I can sing okay, but in terms of singing lessons and how to really resonate your voice and how to do it properly, it's all been self-taught, just like kind of somewhat like breaking is, but it's all been self-taught.
So you never took any voice lessons or anything?
Never took anything.
I've always thought about taking it. I just don't have the time right now, but I think eventually I'll probably do it just because it's always been something I wanted to learn. When I was younger, we would go to, my mom had us in like a, what is it called? Sunday school. And so we'd have to be a part of like a choir there. So at a young age, we were learning how to sing, probably through elementary school or whatever. And then, and then I stopped doing that. But it always was, I guess the little bit of singing lessons I had when I was younger through that it's really the only thing I've had. But sometimes I'll watch like YouTube videos about how to like use your lungs better, your diaphragm better. I don't know. I'm not a good singer though, but it's something I definitely want to get good at.
Hey, well, you know what? We got to set a date and just bang it out.
Dude, I'm hella down. Whenever my brother has like a party at his house, he has a little, what's it called? Magic mic. And we just like go off on that.
Yeah.
All the time.
So I set up at my place. Kind of this, I have 2 mics, I have a mixer, and I have a karaoke program that has tons of songs I just kind of go through.
That's tight.
And so I remember going to, it was a J.U.I.C.E event, and we just all got together, a lot of the staff and other friends came by. And my friend, who's a DJ, he goes, you're like, because I brought the whole system over. I brought my PA system, the mics, the stands. He's all like, you're like a DJ for karaoke. Because I was kind of like, all right, next song up, who's on deck,
That's tight.
Yeah.
Dude, I always was curious, or I always had this weird idea that to do karaoke at a jam, like while people are battling, just have a DJ. I don't know how it would quite work, but like you're playing music and then someone's up there just singing like the song. I don't know how it would work quite, but like I always thought that'd be so dope to make that happen. It would like totally lighten up the mood, I think, of a jam. And I'm all about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think breaking away from the traditional structures, that'd be interesting. One aspect about jams I love is, live music. Yeah. I mean, gosh, just having live music, live band members. It's
so different.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I remember going to one of Jeff Skill's events, and it was just awesome. They just had a full-on live band just going off, for a handful of songs, and it was just really cool just to have that aspect of it, like it was a concert.
Yeah, it feels like it, and and they're just like, a lot of times I saw it would be like the DJ is playing their music, and then this live band would just jump on and just put a bass line or whatever, and I always thought that was tight. They'd hit the drums and stuff. They just kind of play along with it.
Yeah, we did a couple of jams over at the park where we brought in drum set, saxophone, and we had 2 DJs just spinning at the same time and using other instruments along. Yeah, and it just really created a different vibe, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it creates a concert vibe, and it's not even like you had an entire band or like that they had like a whole set that they were doing. It was just some guys just playing, playing to a song that's already exists. Yeah. This is probably how they practice, to be honest. And so they were just like, hey, I'm down with this, playing the drums, and then everybody loves it. So I actually met a few drummers recently, and I was like, hey, is this like how you practice? Because this is like something that B-boys love. B-boys and B-girls love. And so if you ever wanted to just go to a jam or something, or a practice even, and just jam out, like, it would be definitely welcome.
Yeah, I would invite that too, to just like, let's just bring out some congas and just have beats and just freestyle it, and just, bring in other friends, just want to have really cool rhythms and just jam out to it. Because I love the diversity of different types of music, as long as it has like a consistent beat that people are into.
What's your favorite style of music, actually?
So what I listen to top 40 music.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do.
That's tight.
And I think some of that comes because, when I start to sing karaoke,
those
are the songs I go, okay, those are kind of popular now, but there's certain songs I go, okay, I really like that type of song.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all male singers too. Like there are Taylor Swift songs. There's Halsey songs that I'm into that I go, okay, that really has a really cool melody and a beat. I'm gonna sing the guy version of it.
Okay.
In a different key. Yeah, but I listen to top 40. But then when I break and so forth, I mean, I kind of listen to just the remixes and some of great funk and R&B that just is out there.
When anybody asks me that question, I always have a hard time answering it because I can literally find a song in any genre that I like, and so. I mean, maybe the answer to the question is like, which genre do I find the most songs? But there's some genres I just haven't, dug so deep into. But I just love music. Like, I'll hear something weird that I've never heard before, and I'll go like, okay, I don't quite understand this yet, but let me give it a try. And sometimes I'll get into it and I'll go like, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to do, because it's not always just about a lot. I mean, a lot of times they're trying to do something different musically, and it's maybe just not understood at that time because it's so different. And I mean, it's fun to like break down what they were creatively doing in their music.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so fun about music, and why so many different styles of music like resonate with me. And so I like to listen to some of the weird like experimental stuff that like doesn't even have like a steady beat or anything, because even that stuff you go like you want to break down like what the heck is going on, and it's like it's so cool like once you start figuring it out. And I think getting more into music production has helped me kind of break down music a lot better too. So, but yeah, I don't know. When I was younger, I was really into like rock music, alternative, like Nirvana, Third Eye Blind guys, things like that. Rage Against the Machine I was really into, and then later on I started getting more into hip hop. Then it got more into like soul music, funk music and stuff, namely from Breakin, jazz music. Got a little bit into like country music. Recently I've been into like mumble rap, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people have like a kind of weird disdain for it, which at first when I first heard it, I was like, oh, what is this stuff? And then I kind of gave it a try for a while, and then I started realizing, mumble rap is like this generation's way of being like counterculture. I've talked to a lot of people about this actually on this podcast, but hip hop has always been like a somewhat counterculture thing. They want to do something new that no one else has done. And like, I really feel like that's what the mumble rap scene was all about, was like, let's make music, but we're not trying to copy what these guys did before us. Let's do something new, much like how punk music, they would scream and, kind of have inaudible like noise almost. I feel like that's what mumble rap is doing. And I've always liked punk music, and so when I realized that connection to counterculture and like them doing something different, I really gained like a huge respect, I guess, for it. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think hip hop is very much that outlet. It's that counterculture. It's creating something we say from nothing, but it's really having that creativeness with what you have. Yeah. And I think it's a really unique way of expression. I look back as to the evolution of hip hop, because hip hop culture has been changing over the years, and I think it changes. I think as we come to the new age, is what people go through in their lives kind of reflect the outcome of how they express themselves. I think a lot of times people have hip hop and the culture kind of confused in some sense, especially if you're not really involved in the community to see what it's all about. That was one of the topics of discussion is, what is hip hop, right? And I think people always go, well, hip hop is rap music. Yeah. It's a style of dance. Yeah. And I think there's some type of, disconnect between what is authentic hip hop. you know, and so people go, well, what is hip hop? And every time I explain hip hop to others that may not have been involved in the culture, I tell them it's about community. It's about respect and love. It's about bringing, positivity to the world. It's about belonging, family. And these are all the items that kind of form what we call hip hop today. And so, what we try to do over at Juice is to kind of keep those core values about having respect for everyone. It doesn't matter your background, your race, your color, your talent, anything. Everybody is welcome in hip hop.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things that, we pride ourselves just to make sure that, we want to make sure the doors are open for everybody.
Yeah. Hip hop to me is like a lifestyle. It's a culture, it's a lifestyle, and it transcends, I think, all of the four elements, the four typical elements we talk. I think it's much more than that. It's a lifestyle. It's a whole culture, and it's ever growing. I wouldn't be surprised if later on we start saying that there's 5 elements of hip hop or 6 elements of hip hop. You know what I mean? And I think it's just because the bubble is growing more, and we're like, as more people get involved with it, we're actually figuring out more about like what this all is, and so I think in the next couple years we're gonna probably see more and more people getting involved with it. Namely, breaking is now going to be in the Olympics, so I think it's going to open a lot of people's eyes to what we do, and so I wouldn't be surprised if there's an influx of new b-boys, coming in and trying to learn what hip hop is. And so I think having a good defined community for them and welcoming community ready for them is like really the best way to handle that, because it's not, this is a welcoming community. And so we want to make that apparent, when that happens. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I'm breaking is always meant to evolve over time with whatever's going on in the world or whatever's happening in our community. And a lot of people ask me, what do you think about breaking in the Olympics?
Yeah.
And, I think it's part of its course. I think breaking is always meant to evolve. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of great things with having breaking as part of a larger community. Yeah. And people being exposed to something that's really important. Uh-huh. I think what's important is to make sure that the information about what hip hop is and what the true culture is also explained. Yeah. And that there's right people that are able to be part of, getting that information out to people that may not know a lot about hip hop or breaking. I think that's a really important figure to make sure that, whatever the Olympic Committee decides to do is to make sure that they keep that authenticity of the culture.
Yeah. I was talking to my friend Serge yesterday actually about all this, and he's very adamant about portraying hip hop correctly. Like he really wants people to understand there's like a lot of a struggle that was kind of baked into hip hop. And that he wants, when people come in, he doesn't want to shoo them away or anything. He wants to welcome them, but then also like educate them about what this is, and that they're not just coming into it as, just for the good, I guess, but understanding everything about it, the history of it, and that maybe there was some bad parts that, namely that there's maybe some kind of, what would it's kind of built out of, the ghetto. It's built out of poverty. It was built out of, a basic struggle in life to get to where it is now. And so coming into it, you got to respect that as well. And so that was one of the main things he wants to portray as, the scene evolves. So. Which I respect. I think that's a good thing to do, to always respect like your history, but also welcome in the evolution of it. So, well, anyways, we're hitting about an hour right now, so I think we could probably wrap this show up. Do you have any last words? Anything else? I know we didn't really talk about like a crew affiliation or anything. Do you have a crew affiliation?
So I don't. I don't
Okay.
have a crew affiliation.
You're
I
just
guess
Juice for
I
life.
guess there is a Juice crew out there here, but
Oh, is there?
yeah.
Are you gonna battle them?
No, I think they're pretty good. But
Okay.
yeah, I look at the evolution of also Juice and where it has been and where it's come to, and part of what we want to continue to do is build this model that we have is free spaces for anybody to come through
Yeah.
to be able to express themselves in all areas. I mean, I think if you ask me, what do I see in the future of Juice, and I go, gosh, I could see Juice in every city, cross country, cross the seas, having a location all over, just a place where people can come to express themselves, utilizing the hip hop arts as a tool for social change, empowerment, arts education, and just changing people's lives.
Yeah.
So we're our future and our hope is to continue to do what we're doing, continue to grow, continue to build new team members, but also establish new locations across, different areas. And right now, that's what we're trying to do is organically grow. We've been working with the city and the county of Los Angeles. We have different locations that we could possibly open up. But I think what's holding us back right now is just the ability to staff and also finance some of those locations because it is a free program. So a lot of things that we do, it's all either by donations or individuals that really believe in what we do. And so, if we have one of those, wonderful funders one day that says, hey, how do we really help you guys really take this thing off?
Yeah.
I think that could really change what we do. And I think, as we get towards, more popularity with the Olympics and just the media and so forth, our hope is to be able to also maybe even ride that wave a little bit and to, grow what we do.
Yeah, I would imagine there's probably a lot of opportunity for grants out there. I mean, there already is, but I think maybe as there's more popularity, there's probably more willing of the of these organizations and the government to give you guys grants to do what you do, especially if you have a well-defined message and plan, to execute it. So I think my mother, she's an art. She's an artist and a teacher, and so she was doing a lot of similar kind of work in Sacramento, where she was getting grants to do these. What would it was like? It's like a program. It's a healing program through art. Is I guess the best way to describe it. It's where she had women who were subject to abuse or whatever, and they came in. Did artwork to kind of like as a therapy. And so she was the teacher and the organizer, the director, I don't know, all that stuff. So she was doing all the grant writing and everything to put this program on. And so she did that for a very, very long time. Now she's retired, but she still kind of teaches a little bit. But yeah, I imagine, because there's a need for it. And so I imagine that there's tons of grants. That you
right now what we're doing, is collaborating with larger organizations.
Yeah.
So we're going to be working with LAUSD and after school enrichment programs. We're
Yeah.
finishing up our contract with them. And we have a school that we're specifically going to do free breaking programs.
Yeah.
And then we're going to work with another organization in the location that we're with that's already, a pretty well-known youth organization and incorporating something hip and cool into their program for some of their youth. Mm-hmm. And then, one of the other ideas that we're doing right now that we're working towards is opening up another location for Juice on Saturday at the same time that we have our program, and being able to teach kids and families, specifically new to breaking.
Oh, cool.
And so we have a location already determined for that. And once again, it's about staffing, and I'm probably going to end up doing that portion of just kind of going with it and just seeing where it leads us.
Yeah.
Like everything, we try things and sometimes we learn from them and we get better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that you're doing some amazing work, and I'm glad to hear that it's growing and that you have big plans for the future. So stay tuned. And I'd love to have you back if you ever have time to come and talk to more stuff, do some karaoke. I'm down with it. Dope, dude. So do you have any like social media to shout out or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Juice HipHop. I always say like orange juice, so Juice and HipHop. That's our handle. So come follow us.
Yep.
We're over at MacArthur Park every Saturday from 12 to 4, and then Salazar Park in East LA on Fridays from 6 to 8 p.m. Free for everybody.
Free for everybody, even me.
Yeah.
Dope. Cool. Thank you for coming on, dude. This has been a great time. I think this was a great episode. I'm really happy that you were able to come. And thank you guys for listening, all you zero listeners. Dope. Sorry this show sucks.